My fascination with watercolor opalescence started with this butterfly. Me just puttering about in my art studio, indulging in my little creative, obsessive experiments where I ask questions. What if I do this? What if I do that? The particular question I was asking in this session was, what if I just pile on color after color in a wet and wet application? Let's take a look at what happened. All right, so this is the butterfly that I painted off camera. And I was so excited about what was happening in front of my eyes. I was like, what is happening here? Because, you always hear, don't put a bunch of colors together. They'll just make mud. Does this look like mud? No, it does not. It looks like magic. I have always loved opals. And that's what I think of when I look at this effect. It just looks like how beautiful an opal is with all those colors, and you can see all of them all at one time. So here begins a new obsession, y'all. I had to see if I could repeat these results. So I actually got on camera my next experiment that came out even better than the one on the left. The one on the left, I didn't have my camera on. I was literally just playing around, not really thinking anything was going to happen, just playing. And it just was so gorgeous. I was like, let me try this again. So here I'm using Stonehenge hot press paper, which I think that's part of the equation. I put cobalt blue, and then I put Gram naphthol red, which has amazing diffusion. I think that helps too. Then I put Holbein Aureolin. Now I'm putting Daniel Smith Permanent Green Light, which is kind of like a chalky paint, and I knew that. And I wanted the butterfly's body to kind of hold its shape. So I thought that's why I do remember that part of the thought process. Me thinking the last color I'll put down is this chalky color that'll kind of hold its form a little bit more than these other colors that just kind of exploded out across the butterfly. And wait until you see how this dried. It was so beautiful. The effect was just absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Is that muddy? No, it's very opalescence. Look how gorgeous. All the colors separated from each other, yet they're all mixed together all at the same time. It is so beautiful. I'm calling this effect opalescence. I don't know if there's an official watercolor term, if someone else has done this and made it a thing, but I am obsessed and I want to incorporate this into my paintings. And as of this recording, I'm still trying to figure out where can I use this. I think a cool place to use it would be in shadows, where you can just really play with shadows and put so many colors and it will still look good. In the rest of this video, I'm going to show you a few more painting experiments that I did with opalescence that look pretty good. And what you're seeing here is me painting butterfly after butterfly after butterfly after I had this first success. And then these were all not looking as good. And I think one of the reasons is the paper I'm using. So I think I need to do more of these experiments on Stonehenge hot press. And I think part of the solution is also to use really diffusing paints, which the core paints are supposed to be really highly diffusing. So I tried that and I wasn't getting great results, but some of these are downright ugly. And y'all, that's part of the artistic process too, is just puttering about in your studio. If you guys watched my my video on Georgia O'Keeffe I made a while back, this is what she does. She gets a bunch of cheap, crappy paper. This is what she used to do anyway. And she just would do hours and hours of these, going down these experimental rabbit holes, trying different things and just enjoying the process, not trying necessarily to make anything happen. And so that's a great way to move your art forward, is just allow yourself to putter and play and think and ask questions and then indulge in experiments that take time. Here's another experiment that came out, and I'm so glad I got it on camera. I almost didn't record this either. One of my goals is to use this kind of technique, putting in a lot of different colors to paint really glowing, beautiful portraits. And that's another one of my obsessions right now, is learning how to paint a really transparent, glowing portrait of my son, Parker. It's just one of my many artistic goals. And this dried so pretty in parts of it. There were parts that just glowed. And something that I'm learning, in fact, I just finished a painting. This one is, I ended up ruining this, but look how pretty that glow is. I messed it up with some of that purple on his upper lip, but I am going to continue with these experiments and using this kind of opalescent type lesson that I've been learning to put a bunch of colors in a wet and wet application and let them do the work. And you know, Charles Reed is famous for his teaching of just mix the colors on your paper. So here's another opalescent experiment I did with some paintings I'm doing for my Patreon students of puffins. I've done 4 different paintings, and I was playing with this opalescence technique where I got some of the puffin's wings wet, and then I dropped in many different colors, many different colors. And I got some really pretty results in this particular painting here. I'm using just the regular palette that I always use. I do have a whole video on my 10 favorite paint colors because they do work together so well, and that butterfly proved it. But one of the colors that I added to this painting that opalesced out, it's really pretty, was this new color that I also made a video about, PB17, this electric blue I'm putting in right here. It is a hard to find pigment, PB17, but look how pretty that electric blue is, and it granulates out really special. And it's hard to find pigment. Most manufacturers don't make paint with PB17 pigment. Holbein Peacock Blue is the closest one that's easiest to get, but Rockwell is a Canadian company and they make it. And it just did beautiful things in this painting. I will link those videos that I talked about in the upper right corner, by the way. And when you click on them, it won't take you out of the video. It will just queue it up for you to watch later if you want to learn about some of these other videos. But anyway, I also dropped in one of my new favorite paints, transparent pyrrole orange. And that really granulated out as this dried. And I kept babysitting it. I talk to my students a lot about babysitting. And this particular painting here, I'm going to do in a sped up version from start to finish for my Patreon students. This is at about 500 speed. But if you want to come and join my Patreon, you can watch some of this footage in real time or slowed down, slower than this. But I just wanted to show this to you guys because it's so cool. And I encourage you to experiment with this idea and play with it. It's not always going to work though, but it's fun to play with and maybe perfect. If it's anything like my Sadie experiment paintings, which took years for me to perfect, it might take years to perfect this idea, but I definitely think I'm onto something, to say the least. So anyway, what you see me doing here, there I'm dropping in some French ultramarine. I'm just babysitting this, splatting water, trying to get it to cauliflower, just seeing what it'll do. And at times it looks like a hot mess, but I babysat it and gave up on it. And I'm always encouraging y'all to don't give up on your paintings. Keep working them until either they're overworked or you've given them half a chance to do something. So you got to keep, sometimes I personally think it's more important to overwork a painting and try to get it looking like something you love than underwork a painting. I think a more common mistake is underworking a painting and not giving it a chance. Because right here, I was like, I'm just going to throw this in the trash. It's not looking like anything. But I kept lifting up paint and adding back in new colors and just playing and fiddling with this. And in the end, I feel like I got some pretty cool effects. Right here, it looks real ugly. It's the ugly stage. I made quite a few videos about how to pull your paintings out of the ugly stage. So be sure to check those out. All right, so I'm trying to let it set up a little bit, and then I'm going to add in more of that PB17 electric blue and dot it in, and I'm trying to get it to cauliflower into the other colors to make some interesting opalescent effects. And it started looking really cool. Before, I had been lifting out color because it was looking muddy. And then I dropped back in some of this PB17, and now it's starting to look like something. Now it's starting, that PB17 is really glowing up through the other colors. So I really like that. So when I saw that it was looking kind of cool, I decided, okay, I'm going to finish this painting. I'm going to paint this other bird over here with the same opalescent technique that I've been working on. So I dropped in some cobalt blue, some naphthol red, some pyrrole orange, some Daniel Smith permanent green light, the same colors I used in that butterfly. And these colors just really work well together. They're really fun to play with. And like I said, sometimes it doesn't work, but other times they separate out from each other so pretty. They all have these granulating properties that make them granulate back out to show themselves, even in mixes like this. All right, here goes in some of that PB17. That's really fun. It would be interesting to see if the easier to get Holbein peacock blue would do the same thing. That's PB15 pigment, I do believe. All right, here I'm just putting in some pyrrole orange. And then when this other opalescent bird here on the left was perfectly dry, I painted over it with really watery tea consistency pyrrole orange, and it lit this bird up. The warms really vibrated with the cool blues that I had in this painting, and it really made it start to vibrate. It was really exciting to see it happen as soon as I painted some of that pyrrole orange over a lot of the bird on the left. And that's another really cool way to make your colors vibrate, is to make sure you use warms versus cools. I was just showing the camera what brush I was using. This is one of my favorite brushes, this Princeton Aqua Elite 12 long round. It's a synthetic brush. It's vegan, but it has a really long bristle, and so but a big belly. So even for a synthetic brush, it holds a lot of water, and it has a really good tip. So I really love this brush. All right, these birds had a gray part to their beak. So I was like, well, let me just keep going with this opalescent thing and see what happens in this smaller area. So I'm just using the same colors that I used on the butterfly, the same colors I always use, and let them mix together. And it's so fun to watch them as they dry. They really dry and separate out in a really beautiful way. There goes in some pyrrole orange. I put in cobalt blue first. Getting some French ultramarine. Anytime you want a darker mix, use French ultramarine. When you want a medium value mix, use cobalt. When you want a light mix, use cerulean. All right, next I'm going to show you another rabbit hole I went down with this opalescent effect. So I posted this painting, I call this Tuxedo and Friend, on my Facebook page. And if y'all know the Dull Women's group on Facebook, I posted that there, and it got like 6,000 likes and so many comments, and people loved it. So I'm like, you know what? I need to paint this for my Patreon students. And I started out with really good intentions, y'all, to just paint straightforward painting for my students that they can follow along. And I really try to do that. And then these obsessions enter into my head and I can't ignore them. And my obsession came into my head and said, what if you do the opalescent effect in this black cat? What would happen? Um, and this is an experimental technique that I'm using. It's not exactly a beginner's technique. That is really what I should be teaching in a tutorial. But so many of my Patreon videos end up being really experimental. And I think a lot of my students actually enjoy that. But I went down the rabbit hole of trying this opalescent technique on this black cat and making it kind of a heavier opalescent effect. So I started with my cobalt blue, then I put in my red, same red, put in my pyrrole orange, put in my permanent green light. That's what I'm putting in here. It looks so ugly for a minute, y'all. Yeah, I really thought I totally ruined it. Okay, here comes some French ultramarine, and it's looking gosh awful. I was like, what am I doing? Now I'm wasting my time, and I just need to paint this in a straightforward way, like I painted it the first time. And sometimes when I get these obsessions, I cannot stop myself from going down the rabbit hole. And then I was like, this is ugly. This is mud. Look at this. It's just a big hot mess. Like I advise my students, just keep working on it. So I decided to keep working on it. Let's see what happens. Blocking in some of the other parts of the cat. I could see that was too orange. I needed more darks and blues. So I put more French ultramarine, but I let it set up a little bit. Here I'm putting in some of that magical sky blue PB17 paint, furring out some of the edges like I like to do, splatting just to loosen it up because it's a super tight mess right now. And I'm trying to get more looseness in my work. But okay, so I'm picking up some of the mud and then filling it back in with more pure red for the ears. And that really seems to work well with this technique, where if it does start looking like mud, you can lift that mud out and clean it up with a damp, wrung out thirsty brush and then drop back in more pure color. And that does seem to work well to babysit this technique. So anyway, have I inspired you to play with this little experimental idea that started as an innocent little just butterfly and just it's mushroomed into something that I'm obsessed with? And I've had some success and lots of failures and a few exciting successes. So I'm going to continue incorporating this into paintings. And I think it's really beautiful when it works. So I can't wait to hear what you think of this technique. Come join my Facebook group, which is free. You can join my Facebook group. You can post your paintings, and I comment on pretty much every painting that gets posted. If you ask for ideas to improve your painting, I will give them, and so will my other community members. But if you don't, I won't. So come join my Facebook group. You can also join my Patreon for free and follow me there for free. I post a lot of free videos, like when I watch a good video on YouTube that I really learned something from, I'll post it for everyone, even my free members. So I do offer a lot of value even to my free members, in my opinion. And if you'd like to learn from me more in depth and watch my real-time start to finish tutorials, you can join as a paid student, and I hope you will eventually. But in the meantime, just come get to know me a little bit more and share your work with my community and with me, and I'd love to get to know you there. And until next time, go watercolor your world. Bye, everybody.